October rain pounded the windows of the Salem City archives, turning the glass into blurry canvases through which the world seemed distorted and alien. Anna Chen sat in the building's basement, surrounded by towers of archival boxes that rose around her like tombstones in a forgotten cemetery. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting unsettling shadows on the walls lined with metal shelving. Here, in this labyrinth of dust and time, Anna spent her days cataloging documents that most people preferred to forget. The city's crime chronicle since 1824, murders, disappearances, unsolved cases that the police wrote off as accidents or suicides. 200 years of human evil, neatly filed and dated. But today, something was wrong. Anna paused, holding the 1964 police report in her hands, and felt a chill run down her spine. Elizabeth Morrow, 28, high school librarian, found dead in the school library, strangled with a silk cord. Next to her body, a wilted white rose and a note in Latin, Scientia potentia est. Anna quickly found a folder of reports from 1944. Margaret, Stone 31, Historical Society archivist, strangled with a silk cord in the museum basement. White rose, same Latin phrase. Her hands shook as she pulled out the 1924 documents. Dorothy Black, 29, local newspaper reporter, found in her office, cause of death, strangulation, silk cord, rose. Knowledge is power. Anna's heart pounded as she delved into the past. 1904, 1884, 1864, 1844, 1824. Every 20 years, like a curse, counting down the time until the next victim. Always women between the ages of 25 and 35. Always connected with education, knowledge, research, always the same method of murder, the same symbols. Anna leaned back in her chair, feeling reality begin to swim before her eyes. 200 years, 10 victims, a perfect, terrible sequence. The last recorded case was 2004. Margaret Stone, and archivist whose body was found in the very basement where Anna now worked. 20 years ago. The year is 2024. Time for the next murder. Anna stood up so abruptly that the chair fell over with a crash that echoed throughout the empty archive. She began frantically searching for a connection between the victims, something that united them other than their profession and manner of death. In 19th century police reports, the handwriting was old-fashioned, ornate, but legible. Detective Thomas Blackwood worked on a case in 1824. Detective Joshua Blackwood worked on a case in 1844. Sergeant Samuel Blackwood worked on a case in 1864. Blackwood. Same name in reports, separated by decades. Anna rushed to the computer and began searching the city records database. The Blackwood family had lived in Salem since its founding. The mansion at 13 Chestnut Street had been theirs for 200 years, passed down from father to son without exception. The current owner is Nathaniel Blackwood, 43, a history teacher. At Salem College, Anna found his photo on the college website. A tall, thin man with sharp features and cold gray eyes. His specialty was the Puritan era, the role of women in colonial society. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. His research interests included a dissertation, A Threat to the Patriarchal Order, Women Intellectuals in Puritan Society as a Source of Social Instability. Anna printed out a photo of Nathaniel and pinned it to the board next to the photos of the victims. They all looked at her from old photographs. Young, vibrant women who had no idea that their love of learning would become a death sentence. The fluorescent light overhead flickered and went out, leaving Anna in semi-darkness. The only light came from the computer screen, casting a bluish glow on the faces of the dead women. In the ghostly light, Anna noticed something she hadn't seen before. In the corner of each crime scene photograph was a barely discernible signature, the photographer's initials. EB on pictures from 1824 to 1860. SB from 1864 to 1904. JB in the 20th century. The Blackwoods didn't just investigate murders. They documented them, like they were collecting them. Anna quickly typed Blackwood Mansion history into a search engine and began reading. The house was built in 1823 by Ezra Blackwood, a Puritan preacher who was known for his radical views on the role of women in society. His sermons often called for the cleansing of society from the sinful influence of women who have appropriated men's knowledge. The first murder occurred a year after the house was built. Anna found a digitized copy of Ezra Blackwood's diary in the Historical Society's archives. The entries were dated 1823-24. The Lord has shown me the way to cleanse our righteous city from filth. Women who dare to appropriate knowledge intended for men violate the divine order. They must be stopped, lest they tempt others onto the path of sin. The ritual of purification must be performed regularly, as a reminder to the city of the price of pride. Every 20 years, when a new generation forgets the lessons of the past, the Lord demands a sacrifice. The white rose is a symbol of the purity we are restoring. Silk is for strangling sinful words. Latin is the language of true learning, inaccessible to the weak female mind. Anna recoiled from the screen. This wasn't just religious fanaticism. It was a system, a plan, passed down from generation to generation. She went back to the police reports and began looking for patterns in the victims. They weren't just educated women. They had all researched Salem's history at some point. The teacher in 1844 was preparing a lesson on the colonial period. The journalist in 1924 was writing an article about the town's old families. The archivist in 2004 was working on an exhibit called Salem's Forgotten Women. Each of them got too close to the truth. Anna looked at the calendar on the wall. October 2024. Exactly 20 years since the last murder. She quickly opened the file with her details, which the department required of all employees. Anna Chen, 32, librarian archivist. Education, Master of History, specializing in social history of colonial New England. Current project, digitization of Salem Crime Chronicle 1824-2024. Her own project. Her own research led her to this discovery. Anna sucked in a breath of dust and fear. She had not been the next target by chance. She had been chosen because she was doing exactly what all the previous victims had done, searching for the truth in the archives of the past. The phone on the table rang, cutting through the silence of the basement with a sharp sound. Anna flinched and looked at the display. Unknown number. She slowly picked up the phone. Hello? Silence. Then a man's voice, quiet and methodical. Miss Chen, I know what you found. The blood ran cold. Who is this? Someone who appreciates your research, especially your interest in family traditions. The voice was educated, with a slight Boston accent. The voice of a teacher. I think we should meet. I have documents that will complement your collection. I don't. Tomorrow at 8 o'clock. The mansion at 13 Chestnut Street. Enter through the back door. The door will be open. The connection was interrupted. Anna sat in the dead silence of the archive, holding the phone in her trembling hands. Outside, the rain was getting heavier, turning the world into a blur of gray tones. Her reflection in the black computer screen looked like a ghost, pale, scared, doomed. She looked at the photographs of the victims pinned to the board. They had all once sat at similar desks, studied similar documents, made similar discoveries. And then they had disappeared, leaving behind only police reports and wilted roses. Anna knew she had to run. Leave the city, change her name, start a new life. But she also knew the killer would find her anywhere. 200 years of experience, generations of planning. There was no escaping that system. There was only one way out. To meet the heir. To the bloody tradition face to face and try to break the cycle that had lasted for 2 centuries, or become his 10th victim. Anna turned off her computer and packed the most important documents into her bag. Tomorrow evening she would go to Blackwood Manor. But first she had to prepare for a meeting with a man who considered murder a family tradition. As she climbed the stairs from the basement, she felt the eyes of the dead women whose stories she now knew by heart, whispering warnings that echoed in the empty hallways of the building. Scientia potentia est. Knowledge is power. But sometimes knowledge is also a death sentence. Anna had not slept all night. She sat in a chair by the window of her apartment, watching the empty street and listening to every sound. Every rustle of leaves, every creak of floorboards in the neighboring apartment made her shudder. In her hands, she held a baseball bat, a pitiful defense against a man who had been killing for 200 years. Dawn came gray and merciless, like a sentence. Anna brewed a strong coffee and returned to the computer. She needed to know everything she could about Nathaniel Blackwood. Before she met him face to face, Salem College's website was sparse. Nathaniel Blackwood, professor of history, specializing in Puritan New England, teaches courses in social structure of colonial society and the role of religion in the formation of American values. Single. Has lived in the family mansion on Chestnut Street since 1995, after the death of his father. Anna found his dissertation in the online library. The title made her blood run cold. A Threat to the Patriarchal Order, Women Intellectuals in Puritan Society as a Source of Social Instability. She downloaded the file and began to read. With each page, the horror grew. Nathaniel Blackwood was not just studying history, he was extolling the methods of his ancestors. Puritan society of the 17th and 18th centuries understood the danger posed by women who appropriated male prerogatives in the field of knowledge. An educated woman inevitably becomes a source of chaos, undermining the divinely established hierarchy. The cases of Anne Hutchinson and other witches of knowledge show that society instinctively defended itself against this threat. The modern era has forgotten these lessons, allowing feminism to destroy the natural order. It is necessary to return to traditional methods of maintaining social stability. History gives us examples of effective ways to neutralize such threats. Anna recoiled from the screen. This was not a scholarly work. It was a manifesto. Nathaniel Blackwood openly called for a return to the 17th century practice of accusing undesirable women of witchcraft and executing them. She continued her search and found Nathaniel's articles in history journals. They all revolved around the same theme: the dangers of female education. He cited Ezra Blackwood, his ancestor, as a visionary who understood the true nature of the threat. One of the articles featured a photograph of Nathaniel at a history conference. Anna studied his face. The sharp cheekbones, the cold gray eyes, the thin lips pressed into an emotionless line. The face of a man who believed that killing was a sacred duty. Anna opened the city archives and began searching for real estate. The Blackwood mansion at 13 Chestnut Street was built in 1823 and had never been sold since. It had been passed down from father to son in the direct male line. The building records mentioned a basement for storing family valuables. What valuables did the family of the murderers keep? Anna found the building plans in the city council archive. The mansion was larger than it appeared from the outside. There were large basements under the main building, connected by tunnels to other old houses in the area. One of the tunnels led directly to the city archive building. She felt the hairs on her neck stand on end. Nathaniel could get into the archives without showing his face. He could watch her work for months. Anna quickly dialed the number of the archive security service. "This is Anna Chen. Tell me, have there been any cases of the alarm going off in the basement in the last month?" "Good afternoon, Ms. Chen. Yes, there were a few false alarms. The guards checked but found nothing. Most likely rats." "Not rats." Nathaniel studied her, planned, waited for the right moment. Anna closed her phone and returned to her research. She needed to understand how the victims were chosen. What exactly was threatening the Blackwood family? She made a detailed list of all 10 victims and began to look for connections between them. Rebecca Morrow, 1824, a teacher who was preparing a lesson on the colonial history of Salem. In her notes, preserved in the school archive, Anna found a mention of strange rites, practiced by some Puritan families contrary to official church doctrine. Sarah Connolly, 1844, librarian who cataloged church records. Her last diary entry found references in old papers to secret meetings at Blackwood House. Needs further study. Margaret Stone, 1864, journalist who wrote a series of articles about Salem's lost traditions. The newspaper archives contain a draft of her unpublished article, The Dark Secrets of Chestnut Street. The picture was becoming clear. Each victim was getting closer to the Blackwood family secrets. And each time someone got too close to the truth, the cleansing mechanism was triggered. Anna checked out the latest victim, Margaret Stone, an archivist murdered in 2004. Her project, Forgotten Women of Salem, was to include research on women who disappeared under mysterious circumstances at various points in the town's history. Margaret was close to discovering the truth. Too close. Anna looked at her watch, 1:30 in the afternoon. There were less than 7 hours left until her meeting with Nathaniel. She needed to get ready. She printed out all the documents she found, copied them to several flash drives, and hid the copies in different places around the apartment. If something happened to her, the next person to take on the case would have to find the evidence. Anna then wrote a detailed letter addressed to the Salem police chief and set it to be sent automatically the following morning. If she did not cancel it by 8 o'clock, the letter would go away on its own. Around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Anna decided to take a personal look at the Blackwood mansion. She put on a dark jacket and headed to Chestnut Street. Number 13 stood out among the other Victorian mansions with its gloomy solemnity. 3 stories of dark brick, sharp turrets, narrow windows with heavy curtains. The garden around the house was well kept but cold, perfectly trimmed bushes, symmetrical paths, not a single bright flower. Anna walked slowly past the house, studying every detail. Most of the windows were closed, but in one, on the second floor, she noticed movement. Someone had pulled back a curtain and was watching her. She quickened her pace, feeling a heavy gaze on her. At the corner of the street, Anna turned around. There was no one in the window. But the feeling of being watched did not go away. Returning home, Anna found the apartment door ajar. She froze in the hallway, listening. Silence. But the smell was different. The scent of old roses hung in the air. Anna carefully pushed the door and entered the apartment. Everything looked normal, but she immediately noticed that someone had been here. The books on the shelf were in a different order. The desk drawers were carefully moved. Someone had searched the apartment very carefully. On the coffee table in the living room lay a wilted white rose. Next to it was a note on yellowed paper, written in an old-fashioned hand. Miss Chen. Your curiosity is commendable but dangerous. Some family traditions are not meant to be studied, but to be observed. Tonight you will have the opportunity to understand the true value of knowledge. Don't be late. N.B. Anna took the note with trembling hands. The paper was old, perhaps from the 19th century. Nathaniel used the same type of paper as his ancestors. Even the materials for his threats were chosen with historical accuracy. She quickly checked all the rooms. Nothing was missing, but it was clear that Nathaniel was looking for something specific, perhaps proof of her discoveries, or maybe he just wanted to show that he could get into anything. Anna sat down at the computer and opened files with historical documents. She needed to find out more about the Blackwood family traditions, to understand the logic of the murders, to find a weak spot in the system that had been in effect for 200 years. In Ezra Blackwood's diary, she found a detailed description of the purification ritual. The victim must be chosen carefully, only those who threaten the sacred order with their improper knowledge. The murder must be committed in a place associated with education, a library, a school, an archive. The silk cord symbolizes the strangulation of sinful words. The white rose is the restoration of purity. The Latin inscription reminds us that true knowledge belongs only to the worthy. After the ritual, the victim's body should be photographed for the family archive. Every murder should be documented so that future generations will remember their debt. Anna stopped. Family archive. Nathaniel kept photos of all the victims as trophies. This archive could be proof of his guilt. She returned to the building plans of the mansion. The basement was divided into several rooms. One of them was labeled as a personal library. Perhaps that was where the archive of justice was kept. Anna looked at her watch. 5:30. There was an hour and a half left before the meeting. She had to make a decision. Go to the mansion and try to find evidence or flee the city and hope that Nathaniel would not find her. But if she escapes, the killing will continue. In 20 years, a new victim will appear. The cycle will never end. Anna stood and went to the window. Outside, the October twilight was gathering, turning Salem into a city of shadows. Somewhere in those shadows, Nathaniel Blackwood was preparing for the 10th murder in his family tradition. She took the recorder, checked the battery, and hid it in her jacket pocket. If she didn't survive, at least there would be a record of what happened in the mansion. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Anna left her apartment. She walked through the dark streets of Salem, feeling like a condemned woman going to her execution. Every step brought her closer to meeting the man who considered murder a sacred act. But she had no choice. For 200 years, the Blackwood family had killed women for daring to seek knowledge. It was time to put an end to it, even if the price is your own life. The mansion at 13 Chestnut Street waited for her in the darkness of the October evening, like a hungry beast that had finally found its next victim. The back door of Blackwood Manor was ajar, like the jaws of a predator patiently awaiting its prey. Anna stood there, feeling the cold air from the depths of the house wrap around her ankles, like ghostly hands pulling her into the abyss. The recorder in her jacket pocket felt heavy as a tombstone, the last hope that the truth would outlive her. The door closed behind her with a soft click, cutting off her escape. Anna turned on her flashlight and looked around. She stood in a narrow hallway, the walls paneled in dark wood that had absorbed the sense of time and secrets. Portraits stared back at her from yellowed canvases, generations of Blackwood men with the same cold eyes and thin, cruel lips. Anna walked slowly down the hallway, trying not to creak the floorboards. Each step echoed in the emptiness of the house like the heartbeat of a dying man. The walls were hung with ancient weapons, daggers, sabers, pistols from different eras. A collection of instruments of death, collected over 200 years. In the living room, Anna paused in front of the fireplace. On the mantelpiece were photographs in silver frames, not family portraits as one might expect, but crime scene photographs. 10 photographs neatly arranged in chronological order. Each one showed a woman's body, a silk cord, a withered rose, trophies. Anna held the flashlight to the last photo, Margaret Stone, 2004. The woman was lying in the very same basement of the archive where Anna now worked. Her eyes were wide open, staring at the ceiling with an expression of horror and surprise. Next to her head was a white rose and a note, Scientia potentia est. The 11th photograph stood as an empty frame, waiting. Anna found the stairs leading down to the basement. Each step creaked under her weight, as if warning of approaching danger. The air grew colder and damper, filled with the smell of mold and something else, the sweet scent of decay. The basement was larger than she expected. A long corridor branched off in different directions, leading to many rooms. Each door had a plaque with a year, 1824, 1844, 1864. 10 doors, 10 burial chambers. Anna pushed open the door marked 1824. Inside was a small room, the walls of which were covered with newspaper clippings about the murder of Rebecca Morrow. In the center was a glass coffin, and inside was the victim's dress, carefully preserved like a relic. On the wall was a portrait of the girl, and next to it was a diary entry by Ezra Blackwood, describing the murder in great detail. She struggled, more than expected. Women always resist God's will, but silk is strong and the hands of the Lord are firm. Her last words were a prayer, as befits a sinner who has realized her guilt. Anna ran out of the room, feeling sick. But she couldn't stop. She looked into the next room, 1844. The same pattern, clippings, dress, diary. And the next, and another. 10 rooms, 10 women, 200 years of collecting death. In the center of the basement was the largest room with no number on the door. Anna pushed the heavy oak door and went inside. It was a library of nightmares. The walls were lined from floor to ceiling with books, but not ordinary ones. The spines bore the names of victims, the dates of murders, detailed descriptions of rituals. In the center of the room stood a massive oak table, and on it, a leather tome the size of an altar gospel. The Book of Future Sins, read the inscription on the cover, embossed in gold letters. Anna walked up to the table and opened the book. The first pages were written in Ezra Blackwood's handwriting. Murder plans, criteria for choosing victims, descriptions of rituals. Then the handwriting changed. Each generation of Blackwoods added their own notes. Page after page, decade after decade. The names of women who threatened order. Teachers, librarians, journalists, archivists, anyone who dared to seek knowledge in a world where women were expected to remain silent and submissive. Anna reached the modern entries. The handwriting had become neater, but the essence remained the same. The page from 2004 contained a detailed dossier on Margaret Stone, her habits, routes, murder plan. Next to it were surveillance photos taken with a hidden camera, and finally the page for 2024. Anna saw her name written in Nathaniel Blackwood's careful handwriting, Anna Chen, 32, City Archives archivist, of Chinese descent, yet another threat to traditional American values. Specializes in the city's criminal history, has shown an unhealthy interest in family records for the past 6 months. Daily routine, arrives at the archive at 8:30, lunch, break at 12:13 or leaves at 17. On Mondays goes to the gym. On Wednesdays the library, lives alone in an apartment at 47 Essex Street. The locks are old and easy to pick. The plan for the elimination, lure her into the mansion under the pretext of showing her historical documents. Commit the murder in the basement library, symbolically. Leave the body in the archive to emphasize the connection with her research. Below were photographs, Anna at work in the archive, Anna at the entrance to the house, Anna in the supermarket. Dozens of pictures, taken with a hidden camera. Nathaniel had been watching her for months, studying every detail of her life. On the last page lay a silk cord and a dried white rose. An impressive collection, isn't it? Anna turned around. Nathaniel Blackwood stood in the doorway. In the light of the flashlight, his face seemed even sharper and crueler. He was dressed in a dark suit. On his chest was an antique brooch with the symbol of a crescent moon and 7 stars. 200 years of research, planning, refining, he continued, walking slowly into the room. Each generation of my family has added something new to the technique. My great-great-grandfather invented the use of silk cord. It leaves no fibers. My grandfather developed the tracking system. My father perfected the selection of victims. Nathaniel walked over to the bookshelf and pulled out one of the volumes. And me? I created a complete documentation system. Each victim is studied for at least 6 months. Each murder is planned down to the smallest detail. He opened the volume and found hundreds of photographs of Anna. Pictures from different angles, at different times of day and different places. A whole life, laid out on the pages like a collection of butterflies. You're sick, Anna whispered. I am a traditionalist. The world has changed, Ms. Chen, but some truths remain the same. Women who appropriate men's knowledge destroy the natural order. It was true during the Salem witch trials, and it is true today. Nathaniel closed the volume and put it back on the shelf. Your generation has forgotten these lessons. You think that education is your right, but knowledge is a privilege that must be earned. And women can earn it only one way, by silence and submission. Anna slowly retreated to the opposite wall, feeling the bookshelves looming behind her. Nathaniel was in no hurry, enjoying the moment like a cat playing with a mouse. Don't try to escape, Miss Chen. All exits are locked. This building knows its purpose. It has served as a place of ritual purification for 200 years. He took a silk cord out of his pocket, the same one that was in the book. You know what irritates me most about you? Your stubbornness. Other victims understood their fate and accepted it. But you keep digging, searching, asking questions. Even now, when death stands before you, you still try to understand. Anna's hand groped for the bookshelf behind her. Her fingers touched a thick volume. Ezra Blackwood's diary. That is your sin, Miss Chen. Curiosity. The same curiosity that killed Eve in the Garden of Eden. Nathaniel began to slowly wrap the cord around his hands, preparing for the kill. But I have a question for you, Anna said, trying to buy time. How did you know about my research? Who told you that I was studying archives? Nathaniel chuckled. Nobody said anything. I saw it myself. The underground tunnels of this house lead to many buildings in the old part of the city, including the archive. I've been watching you for months, Miss Chen. I've seen you make connections, draw conclusions, get closer to the truth. He took a step forward. But the main thing is that I knew you would come here. They all did. Curiosity is stronger than the instinct of self-preservation in women of your type. Anna clutched Ezra Blackwood's diary in her hand. So it was a trap from the start? Of course. The phone call, the note in your apartment. It was all planned to bring you here, to the place where your curiosity would finally find its final answer. Nathaniel picked up the string. Scientia potentia est, Miss Chen. Knowledge is indeed power, but only in the right hands. At that moment, Anna threw a heavy tome at him. Nathaniel dodged it, but it was enough for her to run for the exit. A deadly chase through the labyrinth of the basement began. Anna ran through the dark corridors, hearing the heavy steps of her pursuer behind her. Nathaniel was in no hurry. He knew every corner, every secret door. The house was his territory, his fortress. You're only delaying the inevitable, he shouted, his voice echoing through the basement. For 200 years my family has performed a sacred ritual. It won't be interrupted because of one stubborn Chinese woman. Anna ran into one of the burial rooms and locked the door. But the lock was old and unreliable. Nathaniel began to break down the door and the wood cracked under his blows. Anna had a few seconds left to find a way out, or a weapon, or a way to destroy the system that had been killing women for 200 years. She looked at the walls of the room, covered with documents and memorabilia. Newspaper clippings, photographs, diary entries. All the evidence of the Blackwood family's crimes. Anna took out her voice recorder and started recording. If she doesn't survive, at least there will be evidence of the truth. The door swung open with a bang and Nathaniel appeared in the doorway with a silk cord in his hands. Game over, Miss Chen. But Anna wasn't running anymore. She was standing in the center of the room holding the recorder and smiling. You are right, Professor Blackwood. The game is indeed over. Game over, Miss Chen. Nathaniel stood in the doorway, silhouetted in the darkness itself. The silk cord in his hands shimmered in the flashlight like a snake poised to strike. But Anna no longer trembled with fear. Her eyes burned with a cold determination. You're right, Professor Blackwood. The game is over, she said, holding up the recorder demonstratively. But not in the way you thought. Nathaniel frowned as he noticed the recording device. What is this? For the last 30 minutes I've been recording every word you've said. Your confessions to the murders, your descriptions of your methods, your explanations of your motives. I have a full confession to 10 murders committed by your family over 200 years. Nathaniel's face contorted with rage. Do you think this will change anything? Who will believe a dead woman's recording? The recording is already being broadcast live, Anna lied, hoping to buy time. Thousands of people are listening to us right now. Your secrets are no longer secrets. Nathaniel lunged at her, but Anna dodged and ran out of the room. A new chase began, but now she knew where to run. To the central library where the Book of Future Sins lay, the main evidence of the family's crimes. In the library, Anna grabbed the leather tome and pressed it to her chest. Stop, she screamed as Nathaniel rushed in after her. One more step and I'll destroy the book. Nathaniel froze. She saw something new in his eyes. Fear. Not for his life, but for the sacred family heirloom. You wouldn't dare. I dare. 200 years of plans, records, names of future victims, all will turn to ashes. Anna slowly retreated to the fireplace in the corner of the library. There were logs there, ready to be kindled. But first, tell me the truth. The whole truth. Why does your family kill? What is the real motive? Nathaniel lowered the cord, his face showing an internal struggle between the desire to kill and the fear of losing the family records. You want to know the truth? Fine. But it will be the last thing you hear. He sat down in the chair opposite the fireplace like a professor preparing for a lecture. Ezra Blackwood was not just a Puritan preacher. He was one of the judges of the Salem witch trials. When the trials were over, he felt robbed of his sacred mission, to cleanse the world of sinful women. Nathaniel spoke monotonously, as if he were telling a well-known story. The first murder was spontaneous. Teacher Rebecca Morrow found documents in the church archives proving that Ezra was fabricating charges against innocent women during the trials. She threatened to expose him. Anna continued to write while she searched the library for more clues. On one of the shelves, she noticed a row of personal journals, each signed with the name of a member of the Blackwood family. Ezra killed her, in a fit of anger. But then he realized it was a sign. God had shown him a new way of serving. Instead of public trials, he was to secretly cleanse the world of women who violated the divine order, and passed on this mission to his descendants. Each generation received a sacred duty. My great-grandfather, grandfather-father, all understood the importance of tradition. The 20-year cycle was not chosen by chance. Enough time for the city to forget the previous murder, but not so long that the lesson was forgotten. Anna pulled one of the diaries from the shelf, Father Nathaniel's notes dated 1980-2004. But your father doubted it, didn't he? Nathaniel winced. How do you know? Anna opened the diary to a random page and read, 1995. Committed third murder. I can't get rid of doubts. Is this really God's will? Or just a family curse that we can't stop? Sometimes I think we kill not for God's sake, but out of fear. Fear that someone will find out the truth about our family. Nathaniel's face turned, pale. He shouldn't have written down doubts. Anna continued reading. Found Ezra's old letters hidden in a secret place. The shocking truth is that there was no divine revelation. Ezra killed Rebecca Morrow because she was blackmailed. She threatened to expose his corruption during the witch trials. Everything else, rituals, symbols, religious justifications, was invented to cover up a banal murder in self-defense. Liar! Nathaniel roared, jumping up from his chair. Father was weak. He did not understand the greatness of our mission. But Anna continued reading. Every generation has killed out of fear of exposure, not for God's sake, not to purify the world, but to protect family secrets. We have become hostages to a tradition that began with a common crime. But how can we stop something that has lasted for 200 years? Nathaniel clutched the cord until his knuckles turned white. He died without understanding the truth. I will not repeat his mistake. What truth? Anna asked. That you kill innocent women to protect the reputation of a dead, corrupt official? The truth that some traditions are more important than individual lives? That order is more valuable than chaos. That men must control knowledge because women are too weak to bear this responsibility. Nathaniel came closer and Anna saw madness in his eyes. He really believed in his words, despite the revelations. You are mentally ill, she said. I am the only sane man in a world that has gone mad. A world where women assume the rights of men, where traditions are trampled in the name of progress, where no one remembers the lessons of the past. He picked up the cord. Enough talk. Give the book back and die with dignity. Never. Anna threw the book of future sins into the fireplace and grabbed the matches from the mantelpiece. Nathaniel rushed to her, but it was too late. The match flared up, the flame touching the old pages. No! Nathaniel screamed. He tried to pull the book out of the fire, but the pages were already catching fire. 200 years of plans, notes, names of future victims were turning to ashes. In desperation, Nathaniel grabbed Anna by the throat, trying to strangle her with his bare hands, but she was ready. Anna grabbed the silk cord he had dropped in panic and wrapped it around Nathaniel's neck. Scientia potentia est, she whispered, tightening the noose. Knowledge is indeed power. Nathaniel wheezed, trying to break free, but Anna held on tight. For 200 years, his family had been killing women this way, Now the killer's weapons were being turned against them. When Nathaniel stopped moving, Anna let go of the cord and fell to her knees. Her hands were shaking, her heart was pounding. She had become a killer, but this was the only way to stop the cycle. The fire in the fireplace was dying down, consuming the last pages of the book of future sins. Anna gathered the unburned documents and diaries, evidence of the Blackwood family's crimes. The recorder continued to record. Once she got out of the mansion, she called the police. By morning, the basement at 13 Chestnut Street was crawling with forensics experts. 10 burial chambers, hundreds of clues, evidence of a 200-year-old series of murders. The Blackwood family story became a national sensation. Anna testified, provided recordings, helped investigators reconstruct the full picture of the crimes. The victims' families finally got answers to questions that had tormented them for decades. But the victory had a bitter aftertaste. A month after her arrest and the case's closure, Anna returned to work at the archives. She sat in the same basement, where Margaret Stone's body had once been found, and continued cataloging documents. But now she was looking for new patterns. On the table in front of her were files on other old Salem families. The Caradocks, who had lived in town since 1692. The Thornhills, whose mansion had stood since colonial times. The Blackhorns, whose genealogy went back to the first settlements. Anna found references to strange deaths linked to each family. Disappearances, every 25 years for the Caradocks. Mysterious drownings every 30 years for the Thornhills. Hunting accidents every 15 years for the Blackhorns. Different cycles. Different methods. Different justifications, but the result is the same. The death of those who got too close to family secrets. Anna opened a new folder and wrote on the label, Caradoc Family, Investigation into Cyclic Disappearances, 1724-2024. She realized the horrifying truth. The Blackwoods weren't alone. Salem was built on a foundation of family secrets, each protected by blood. Destroying one tradition of murder didn't stop the evil. It simply revealed the scale of the problem. Evil does not disappear. It adapts, mutates, finds new forms. And there is always someone ready to continue the tradition. Anna took a pen and began to write in her diary, November 1st, 2024. Commence investigation into the Caradoc family. Preliminary evidence indicates a series of disappearances every 25 years, beginning in 1724. The last recorded case was 1999. The next one should occur in 2024. I may have become the new Nathaniel Blackwood, a man who knows too much about the town's family secrets. But unlike him, I won't kill to protect secrets, I'll reveal them. Anna closed the diary and looked at the portrait of Margaret Stone she had hung on the wall. The woman looked at her from the photograph, as if passing the baton from one keeper of dangerous knowledge to another. Outside, a new day was beginning in Salem. The town was waking up unaware that in its basements and archives lived a woman who had sworn to uncover all the family secrets, no matter how long it took. Anna Chen was no longer just a librarian. She had become a hunter of ghosts from the past, a detective of dead traditions, the last hope of women whose voices had been silenced by centuries. The cycle has closed, but a new story has begun. The story of how one woman decided to fight an army of family ghosts, armed only with knowledge and an indomitable desire to find the truth, even if this truth ultimately destroys her. A new light has been lit in the Salem archives. A cold, merciless light that leaves no shadows where secrets might hide. And Anna Chen was ready to shine this light until the very end. Scientia potentia est. Knowledge is indeed power, a force capable of destroying any tradition of evil.